Alright, another response video. Yeah, the comments mostly, I think, on my video actually, but Fred did this video. And called Objectivity, Detachment, and Hard Stuff. So yeah, it's just another 10 minutes of this implication that there's some sort of common correlates between people who draw conclusions that are hard. Okay, they say, okay, we got enough evidence, this is the truth, it's not going to change, the world is round, let's just settle it, let's not waste time analyzing how round and all that shit, let's just say, yeah, it's a circle, we got it, you're not going to fall off, there's no horizon to fall off of, so we don't have to build the ships with crash devices to worry about them crashing as they fall over the end of the earth. It won't happen, so yep, we can let that one go and we can move on. That, in Fred's opinion, is just like religious people who say, my mommy said God did it. So anyway, he's just doing this because, these phantasmagorical unicorn riders don't want us taking away their little sparkling glitter glamour bullshit stage show. They want to make life into a stage show, right? And they don't want to have to do the sad story of life. They don't want to have to do, look, this is a 1 in a trillion animals that'll die today. See it suffocating as the last little breaths come out? Oh yeah, there's a little bit of blood squirting out of its ear. You see that? They don't want to do that play. They want to do the, we're human and we're cool and we're special kind of show. And yeah, they're all kind of flamboyant and kind of, well, there is this association. I could do a whole video, right? I could do a 10-minute video, serious, and I could start off by saying, hey YouTube, there's kind of an important and interesting subject here. I've just noticed this correlation between professors and pedophiles. They sort of have the same psychology, right? They all got small penises, and they kind of feel insecure about that. And so they have to deal with things that are smaller than they are. Little people, younger minds that haven't been exposed to real ideas yet. Because they don't have the stuff. They can't make a real rational argument. They got to pussy out, and pull the Hitler card or some other kind of crap. Because they don't have arguments to make. And so they're such pussies, and so they're so insecure and such pussies. They see they can only have relationships with things younger than them, things that are naive and manipulatable, and things they can tell their little phantasmagorical stories to, their little pretend stories of the magic ride they're riding, and how special and super they are. And yeah, it embiggens them, you see, because their little minds and their little eyes get all glowy. Ooh, they're telling me magic stuff. And they're telling me how smart and wise I am, and they're rewarding me and petting me, and then they're petting me, and then they're massaging me, and then they're sticking their finger in my a-hole. Yeah. So, there's huge correlations, right, between wacky professors, right? They're always kind of weird, and weird, child molesters, right? I see huge correlations between the two, Yeah. You see that too? Yeah, I won't bother with the whole 10-minute video, but you get the drift. Alright, so we got that out of the way. But just a fucking lame slander. Let's avoid the truth because religious people are trying to make their bullshit sound credible, so they create creationism, they make up fake evidence to try to establish the fact that God really does exist. They do their Wizard of Oz thing and try to create some fire monster so they can pretend there's really a God. And because they try to duplicate science or try to mimic scientific authority, factual authority, evidentiary authority, that means that now all science is now corrupted because religious people are mimicking them. Somehow we can't do any logical thinking anymore, and we certainly can't do any thou shalt nodding. See, the religious people did that, and now nobody else can ever say thou shalt not. No one can ever call anything a wrong or a right because God people did that. And so that means nobody ever again can ever do that. This is pathetic. Weasel, evasive little fucking turdy weasels. So anyway, Dana Garrett, I think, is actually trying to defend the idea that, yes, rational people can understand right and wrong, especially intelligent, rational people. Oh, there's Laura Layla. Let's see what she's got to say. Oh yeah, I will point out I didn't make the final cut on the contest. But no, what they really should publish is how they decided, right? Because this was the whole talk about this equality competition, and they had this whole conversation about how do you judge quality. And yet there's nothing about how they judge quality. And I would just be curious. I mean, they should like publish the results, and just so it's understood that maybe it was a popularity contest, or a feel sorry for people contest, or whatever the fuck it was. But was it really about quality? Question mark. Anyway, I've been thinking about global. And they also kicked out the video that had the copyrighted footage of the cheetahs and stuff. And yeah, although that's copyrighted, I mean this is just showing some kind of like balllessness, right? Because I mean technically, what could possibly be the copyright violation, right? I mean it's non-commercial use, clearly for educational purposes. It's clearly a derivative of the original. It's clearly had tremendous add-on value. So I mean, it is kind of just bogus to say that wouldn't win in a copyright claim. I mean, it seems slam dunky kind of, no way they're going to be able to say, that isn't fair use. And so they should be defending fair use instead of doing just what YouTube does, which is close the door on anything that even looks like a violation of copyright. And they're just doing the same thing as YouTube's doing. Brilliant. They're doing it even worse than YouTube. Actually, the video is still on YouTube, I think. So, gee, fail. Anyway, if that's even the slightest bit possible, I mean, some people, if we're gonna have rights, people actually have to take this shit. They have to force the issue and take the shit to court once in a while. Somebody's got to fight for our rights once in a while, and maybe colleges are in the position to do that. Yeah. Anyway, let's see, where was I? I've been thinking about global thinking recently, which, rather than being detached thinking, if that's even the slightest bit possible, is an immersed but not personal thinking. Oh man, does this make any sense? Immersed in what? Jello? That doesn't mean, however, that one is then in a position to think for all. Why not? Albert Einstein was, very smart. He certainly could think better than most. The fact is, if somebody's right, thinking for all is the right thing for them to do, right? I mean, if nobody knows what E equals mc squared, nobody knows about, let's say, that whole idea, the bent space thing. And Einstein came up with it. So in a way, he thought for all of us. And he discovered a truth. Now, whether he has a right to apply the truth, that's another question. But if you know a truth, I mean, if I get direct, hard evidence, right, like an alien thing comes down to me and has a conversation with me and explains how everybody else is really a lizard monster on this planet, and he's got really good evidence, and then he proves to me that I'm sane and that the whole conversation I'm having isn't just completely whacked, but it's really good evidence. I mean, maybe I have a right to just say, okay, I'll do my job and I'll whack all the lizard monsters. Maybe I could do this anyway, just for the fun of it. I'll pretend I had the conversation with the aliens. That doesn't mean, however, that one is then in a position to think for all, which seems to be the tendency of some who imagine they can be objective. Imagine they can be objective. Now just think about that for a while. So when I'm working on a car, I'm not being objective. I'm not using my objective knowledge of car mechanics. I am somehow subjectively interpreting and feeling and intuiting and saying, oh man, you're such a pretty carburetor. Ooh, can I stroke you? Or I'm doing some other kind of subject, or I'm going, ooh man, that thing looks like that kind of looks like a banana cream pie. Maybe I'll lick that alternator. I mean, in what way am I being subjective when I'm, say, let's playing a game of chess? I'm using whatever resources and understanding I have of the strategy game and how to best play the strategy. Any competitive sport. I mean, where's the subjectivity? It isn't there. You're not being subjective. And the only way you're being subjective is that your knowledge is subjectively held, and it's limited by how much will fit into your particular subjective experience as produced. You didn't have consultation with Mozart, so maybe you're not the best violin player you could be. Well, I guess you play the piano mostly, but whatever. But this idea that we yeah. This is a really important subject because it's really important to understand the difference between what we know because we logically deduce something and we understand, okay, these are the game rules, this is how you play the game, I'll play by the rules. And when you're playing the game by the rules, you're not doing it for some subjective reason. You're doing it because you've accepted the fact that that's the rules of playing the game. I mean, it's an acknowledgement of a circumstance existing. And that acknowledgement is not some sort of subjective thing. It's a thing that's created by a logical occurrence in your brain. Your logic says, this is the way it's got to be done. When I pour water out of a pitcher, I have no expectation that the water is going to shoot up to the ceiling. I don't put my hand up just in case the water is going to fly up to the ceiling. Not for some subjective reason, but because I know water can't do that. It won't do that. Fuck. All right. Objective are to claim a higher authority. Well, again, see, now look at the way she's doing it also. To claim a higher authority. Yeah, the higher authority is I have a better argument than you. So they're claiming that when you say to somebody, I have a big pile of facts proving that we evolved, okay, over a period of 4 billion years on planet Earth. Now, when you do that, when you say, I have a big pile of facts that point to that truth, that somehow you're claiming a higher authority than a religious kook. That somehow you're saying, you have to believe me just because I'm an authority or something. No, you're just claiming you have better evidence. You have a better logical argument. Yeah, I'm claiming I have a better argument than you. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. I'm claiming I understand perspective better than you. That's what objective and subjective refers to, is your perspective, your point of view. Are you viewing it from your limited, selfish, individual perspective, or are you viewing it from the whole game perspective? Whether God or science. So again, what has science said to you that you find so threatening, so that you would put it in the same category as religious dogma? What horror has science come up with that you find it so offensive that you're going to slander the scientist by putting it in the same category as the religious asshole? Is it the theory of evolution? It just bothers you? You don't, I ain't no fucking monkey. Is that what you're going to say to me? Does that scare you? The evil scientist telling you you're a monkey? You don't like that? Is that it? What scientific fact discovered? What scientific theory do you find so fucking obnoxious and offensive? Jews have horns? Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't a scientific theory, was it? No, that wasn't. What's your scientific... Come on, you can do it. What is your scientific theory that you find so threatening? I'm waiting. Oh, that's right, you're not there. But thinking purely for oneself or from one's own perspective or to prove points or ideas doesn't need breaking down, in my opinion. Does need breaking down. Now, what's it? I can't do anything with this. But thinking purely for oneself or from one's own perspective or to prove points or ideas does need breaking down. Thinking for yourself or from your own perspective or to prove points or ideas. So points and ideas go together. Probably should have been another comma there or something. Well, anyway, forget it. It's just gibberish. Can't do anything with that. I'm sorry. Yes, just mushy nonsense. I'm afraid, here's to be serious, that either or thinkers might listen to this video and jump to the conclusion that you are being willfully obstructive or wishy-washy. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's right. Oh, and then she does the quoting Roddy, whoever Roddy is, but who the fuck cares? So this spreads into the wishy-washy. I am fine with wishy-washy. Well, there you go. So isn't that's real hard atheists. The real hard atheists love to be considered wishy-washy. Great. If anyone were to call me that, it would be a perfect example of how liquid gas metaphors are used to undermine the status of conflicting statements by framing them as less hard, permanent, solid, foundational, or true in an engineering sense. I don't know. This all has something to do with somehow there are these, there are facts that are more certain than others, that we've established with more certain evidence than others. But if I was to argue what facts are more easily abused, you could almost argue that some of the facts that are more easily abused are statistical ones, the ones that are the hardest. That there's a certain number of black men in prison. It's a hard fact. You can't deny the truth of it. But the interpretation is where all the danger is, right? So the fact itself is not dangerous. It's just a truth. It's not a big deal, right? So as long as you put the rational context on that fact to explain that, oh, well, they're not in prison because blacks are more criminal by nature. Oh, that's right. It's because, yes, blacks are poorer by nature. And if you went by poverty, yes, they are consistent with other poor people in the sense of the numbers of people that would be in prison based on population in cities or whatever the demographic would be. So the point is that it's a completely understandable fact and that it doesn't mean anything unless you want to use it maliciously. But it's certainly a maliciously usable fact if no one takes the care to keep it logically consistent to the other facts that are tied to it. So if you break the strings to all those other facts and take it out of context, yeah, you can use it. But the truth is that people can call people on that. They can call them and just say, wait, you cut all those important contextual strings to that fact. And once all those strings are cut, this fact doesn't have any meaning. I mean, you could just... Anyway, well, I mean, I'm just saying you can context it so many ways, right? You could just say, you could make some argument about Native Americans or something else, and then you could just explain, well, guess what? They didn't own any property in this country, or they didn't own this, and they didn't have that, so how the hell could they have any of these other things that we have? You idiots. But anyway. So that's probably enough of this shit. But really, there's a real... the sliminess. This really is the Hitler-Carty kind of crap. I mean, just to try to malign people who think, people who would. This is like back in the O.J. trial days, right? Or even the Michael Jackson trial, right? There are these people, these wishy-washy assholes who, because of their subjective interest in phantasmagorical bullshit, would like to destroy the evidence. They would like to malign the evidence. They would like to malign the proof of our circumstances and our reality so they can find some excuse to believe in the bullshit. And that's all he's doing here. He's attempting to malign the ton of evidence we have about exactly what the fuck we are, and the fact that we're caught up in a value game that there is no way to resolve in any positive way. And he doesn't want to accept that truth. He's invested in a different truth. And so now all he has left as a weapon is to malign people who say, yes, evolution is real. Our psychology, as just being a consuming, selfish little crud organism, is real, is true. All this bullshit that you live for, your little song and dance, la-di-da crap, could be replaced by a little pill. You're deluding yourself if you think it has any real value. That's the irony, is that all this science has real credibility, and this guy's whole life is devoted to this silly, fucktarded nonsense that you could supplement with anything. You think that, like say tomorrow, it'd be so cool if we actually do these experiments. But let's say tomorrow I get to redo television, and I put all my shows on television, right? I just make a ton of shit on television, but nobody knows it was me who did it. Nobody knows how it got done. But the truth is I'll bet you that people will be like, oh yeah, that stuff is just as cool, right? I'll have like potato races, and I'll have like bug wars, and I'll have, you know, all kinds of bullshit shows, right? I mean, I'll have a sitcom with talking cockroach, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, it's so duplicatable. All you need is any kind of droney bullshit, and people will watch it. You can put almost anything on TV. You know, cooking dog do, barbecue dog do, and people will watch the fucking show. I mean, all you gotta do is say something funny now and then. You know, I mean, really. Yeah, it's all a sham. Your notions of beauty and integrity and your stoic nonsense. It's all crap. Grow up and smell the human scum. So anyway, enough of that shit. Let's be done with this tranquil asshole. Alright, so I mean, I've had a long-running dispute with Tranquil. Look, my general impression of Tranquil is he's this goddamn pussy shit again, right? He knows the world's shit, and he basically says, well, it's not my problem, right? But he whines and cries all over the internet about it. But, you know, that seems to be his job, is to bitch, okay? But don't bitch in any effective way. The last thing he wants to do is anybody to change their mind, get motivated to do a damn thing about anything. Just let it keep happening. Just keep stepping into it. Just keep not wearing your condom because you're a fucking selfish asshole, so you can have another Tranquil to be a boring tub of crap sitting there not knowing what the fuck he's doing. And then telling everybody else how to do the same shit all over again, to be a reckless asshole. Do like I do. Be a reckless asshole. Yeah, well, whatever. I didn't even paraphrase him properly because he's even more monstrously fucktarded than I just explained. So anyway, so he goes across the internet. Any video that's trashing Gary, he types his little psychobabble bullshit where he's sitting there analyzing me and calling me a hypocrite, or calling me duplicitous, or all this bullshit. Okay, stuff that's so easy to counter. But why should I have to do that? Why should I have to respond to a little slander and trolly piece of fucking scum on the internet? That shouldn't be my goddamn job. You shouldn't be able to provoke me into doing that. Why don't you just make commentary about what a little weasel you are, okay, and do your little whining and complaining and get off my ass, you little fucker, and then I might not feel the need to come up and kick you in the nuts. Yes, Gary, Fred doesn't care about suffering and sentient animals. He is a psychotic lunatic. Well, look, you know, he's got a few of those characteristics. I mean, you have to admit that he does fall in a couple of the categories. I mean, he made videos fucking dead animals, which means he had to go into the fucking swamp and go find himself some dead shit, drag it around, set up the camera so he could fuck a dead, rotting corpse. So that's a little bit fucked up. And there's a couple other his videos that just make you want to throw up. So don't be telling me he doesn't have a little bit of psychotic in him. Well, anyway, we all know he talks about his vegetarianism. He doesn't really talk about his vegetarianism. So that's where it's a little bit of a fudgy line. Well, he talks about his. Yes, all right, his. He doesn't talk about vegetarianism. And so that's sort of the problem. He doesn't talk about the problem of animals. He talks about the problem of being a human and justifying your position with animals. Anyway, just to cover up that fact. And yeah, he totally slandered you in that video. He slandered any thinking person in that video. Anyone who thinks. Anyone who has gone to the trouble to analyze the human condition, he slandered in that video. Because he said you're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to make value judgments. You're not allowed to say there's too many starving people on earth. Okay, because that would be a logical conclusion. You're not allowed to have logical conclusions. So your response was in kind. That's right. My response wasn't even in kind. I just said, fuck you. You scummy scuzzbag, okay? You're going to sit there and fucking try to paint goddamn people who are deliberately, willfully, explicitly making their arguments on the internet, not some religious coward. They're right here, making their arguments, explaining to you in detail exactly why they think what they think. And you're going to put them in the same category as some religious fuck-ass. I think that's really fucking offensive. So your response was in kind. You always give people just exactly what they deserve. Well, like I said, I like that people get exactly what they deserve. That seems to me a perfectly great thing to say. People should get what they deserve. If they endorse slavery, they should be slaves. If they endorse rape, they should get raped. If they, anything, if you're going to open the door to harm, then harm should fall on your fucking head. If it has to fall on somebody's head, it should fall on the asshole who turned the doorknob. If you're not going to wear your condom and do your duty, yeah, then the baby should fall on your head. Yeah, fucking asshole. The lead baby. The retarded baby. You should spend the rest of your life cleaning up its poo. Fucking asshole. Anyway. Luddite, I might as well read this one. Let's see what he says. How the hell does Inmendham account for his frequent use of deserve with his causal determinism? Well, I'm just saying, determinism doesn't prohibit me from saying, oh, I wish there was fairness in the world. I wish that fairness in the world would impose all the shit would happen to the shitheads. What's wrong with me wishing that? Is there something wrong with me wishing? Does determinism somehow prevent wishing? I don't think there's any theoretical reason why my brain can't wish something because the universe is deterministic. Because, Einstein had to go to school and learn some physics to be able to do physics in his spare time and be able to figure out the whole blah, 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 blah. And he couldn't have done any of that shit if he spent his time in ballet school. So, the fact is he had to have the right kind of education to be able to do the Einstein thing, or else he would have been doing some other kind of poofter thing in ballet school, and that would have been completely different, right? So, yeah, cause and effect. Got to go to school to be able to spout some kind of brilliant shit because you went to school and you learned how the things work and the atoms are built and all that kind of shit. And if you didn't have that little bit of knowledge, you couldn't have made the big knowledge. Duh. I mean, per his own fucking ontology, no one deserves or does not deserve anything. Well, again, I don't buy into this bullshit that because there's determinism, the assholes shouldn't have assholery fall on them. If it has to happen. I'm just saying there's no point in anybody suffering unnecessarily. So once an asshole has assholed into the world and the shit is on the floor, there's no point in pretending that if I shove the shit in his head, in his mouth, that somehow that's going to undo the shit. If somebody kills a kid or something, right? I can't undo the dead kid. I can't undo the rape of the kid by torturing the asshole who did it. It's not going to undo it. So it's totally useless to create more suffering. It's just, that's that eye for an eye thing again. There's just no point in making everybody blind because one guy made somebody blind. But the fact is deserved is still a relevant word. The fact is that even when we create deterrence, which is a valid thing to do, create deterrence because the fact that the law exists and the law might hurt me if I do something wrong does change my behavior. You do understand that, right? You do understand the fact that when we talk about things or we establish laws, that those things change who you will be. They change your behavior. If the law exists, you'll behave one way. If the law doesn't exist, you'll behave another way. We know if we take away drunk driving laws tomorrow, there'll be a lot more drunk drivers on the road. You do know that, right? Retard. God, he's so fucking stupid. I shouldn't bother. They're just all too stupid. If the videos have values to others, they find them gratifying, which obviously many do. He should first admit that he's doing them for himself and not sure that he sees it that way, though. So he's making this argument now through this whole thing with whatever her name is, Indifference Guy, Boo Boo, that he's making some argument about the fact that somehow I'm making videos for selfish reasons or something. And I've made the argument that you can't do anything for an purely unselfish reason. I mean, you somehow have to find some way to become emotionally invested in what you're doing, or you can't do it. But there's a ton of things we do that we really, 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 really do not want to do. And we're only doing them because we know there's some bad thing that's going to happen to us if we don't do them. So if you want to call it selfish, not to want to get, crushed by a steamroller, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if I'm like steamroller maintenance guy, and I know I got to do a few little things to make sure the steamroller doesn't roll away recklessly. Well, I know I got to do those things, or I get run over by the steamroller. So even though I don't like doing them, I'll do them because I don't want to get run over by the steamroller. Now, it's kind of idiotic to call that selfishness. And if you think you think you're this poetic lover of tragedy and beauty and art, right? You're always bragging about art, and yet you think I as an artist can't find better use of my time than have to argue this shit with the human race? You think I wouldn't rather wallow in art than make videos about what a motherfucking little weaselly cunt you are? Do you really think so? You're really that fucking stupid? Yeah, you really that stupid. Why am I asking a rhetorical question that's stupid? Of course he's that stupid. He's an asshole. Gary understands that we are selfish, and that, of course, why humanity is doomed, and he wants us to make graceful exit instead. All right, I'm not saying he doesn't understand that, but I'm saying I would like and be surprised by seeing him admit that the impulse for video making is entirely selfish, and that no matter what consequences it has, it is first and foremost done for his own gratification that he engages in it. I mean, this is just so fucking idiotic. Because you sense the need for something to get done. It's like when sometimes I work and I don't get paid. Sometimes I do things for people just because it needs to get done and no one else is going to do it. To call that, again, for my own gratification? No, for my own peace of mind, maybe. I mean, because there's some kind of negative thing that's going to attack me if I don't do something, again, I think it's just crap to call that some kind of like selfish gluttony. It's not a gluttony, asshole. Preserving yourself, preserving your integrity, preserving your dignity isn't the same thing, okay, as a gluttony, as a taking, as a wallowing in something you didn't earn or something you didn't work for. Like you. Yeah. All right, that's not my point. What I wanted to illustrate is that no one is self-sacrificing at all. Well, again, it just doesn't make any sense to say that. Obviously, people do self-sacrifice, but they only self-sacrifice, right, when they have found a value of higher value than themselves. They have reduced the value of themselves, and they have maximized the value of something else. So the Japanese soldier might maximize the value of his family name and the value of maybe even his nation. And so he will know that I will be the fodder for doing honor to them. I will be I will gold plate their living room by being a good kamikaze. Now you really can't call that not self-sacrificing. It's completely self-destructive. It annihilates his self because he has extended his self to something he finds better, more, greater value in. And he has now found no value in his self compared to that greater value. So, again, I'm going to argue that he's doing it because he has understood that to be the thing he must do. He has personalized it. He has made it his own. He has made it his own stoic, prideful, honorable, true thing. But to call that selfish, I think, is just so fucking insulting to the magnificence of it. I mean, it's just a grotesque insult to the strength of that, the courage of that. Courage is a real concept. It takes real courage to bite, to fight, to face that gauntlet. And for a little pussy like you to sit there and call them selfish. Fuck you. You suck. Alright. This is the last one I'll read, just because this one's sort of interesting. Everything, and I mean everything, as long as it is an action, is first and foremost an attempt to gratify oneself. Again, but what is a oneself? Again, gratify oneself. You have to understand that oneself is not a static mechanism created by biology. It's a mechanism, a machine created by understanding. I see, again, you said something like you love cats. I don't love cats. Okay? What I find precious is consciousness. Wherever it's trapped. I don't care for it too much in humans just because, yes, I am frankly bigoted against humans. Humans are the most disgusting, the grotesque monsters on this planet, and it's just a bug I can't get comfortable with. But sentience in these little animals, yeah, that's right. I don't care if it's a fucking possum with its tail frozen off and, you know, it's dirty and scruffy and it might even have mites and bugs. I'll see its consciousness and I'll say, I'll give it something to eat, or I'll do something to try to make its life or its passing more graceful and dignified. And I'm not doing that for selfish reasons. I'm not doing that for some personal horniness. I'm doing it because my brain, my logic, has recognized it as many times more valuable than anything I could personally want. I mean, I can't compose a chocolate marshmallow pie more magnificent than the welfare of that animal. Asshole. Anyway, to gratify oneself. So, I mean, again, it's not self-gratification. It's preserving my dignity. I could have no dignity if I wasn't paused. And I find myself still ridiculing myself. I still find myself so displeased with the fact that I haven't done enough, that I don't sacrifice enough, that I don't push it hard enough. You know, and you know, I even did that in the past, asshole. You know, I started putting pictures on things, right? So I would put pictures of animals in laboratory experiments. I first did them on my coffee table. So I just covered the whole table with them, shellacked them on there permanently. So wherever I looked at the coffee table, there'd be a monkey with electrodes in its head and mice getting their fucking asses reamed and all this shit. And then I was like, well, this only works when I'm sitting here by the coffee table. And I'm saying, this is so important that I should be mindful of it every time I do anything. And so all across these walls, all across the ceiling there, throughout the whole house, I had pictures of animals. Not all of them being tortured, but just animals. So I'd always be aware that that's the game I'm in. I'm in a game with all these other sentient creatures, because we get so distracted by our little human bullshit that we don't consider the fact that the vast majority of the slaves, the workers, those getting brutalized, those getting ground up for our comfort, those producing our oxygen, are these animals. They're the ones maintaining your biosphere for you. Alright? But the point I'm trying to make here is that I had to put it in my face. Because the selfish animal, you know, how can you accuse me of being selfish? The selfish animal says, I don't want to see any of that shit. I don't want to know anything about that. It's a boner killer, fucker. Why would I put a bunch of images that kill my boners? Why would I do that? Oh, that's right. I do it because I knew it was the right thing, you stupid fuck. Okay. Let's see. Attempt to gratify oneself. If we were all truly honest, we could see why we do what we do. Why we do what we do, we would be ashamed. Yeah, well, I'm speaking to that fact, but you're not accepting your shame. You're just making rationalizations and excuses. You're saying I'm allowed to run away because Schopenhauer said so. I found some fucking philosophers who said, yeah, just cop out. Okay, you can't fix anything. You can't do anything. I'm telling you, there's no cure. I'm telling you because if they failed 500 times in a row, you'll fail the 501st time. which reminds me of Dr. Ehrlich, right? So if Dr. Ehrlich had your brilliant attitude, syphilis would never have had a treatment, and people would still be dying of it today, right? Because if he had your attitude, he would have given up at 501, and he wouldn't have waited for 606, right? I mean, it took 606 experiments to get there, okay? But ballless assholes like you would say it can't be done because we didn't do it in the first 500 experiments, so we can't do it. It's not a perfect analogy, but you get my drift. You can't draw these kind of conclusions. You want to cop out and piss out and be a little wissy bullshitter, well, fine. But just admit that you're the scumbag here. You're the selfish weasel. You're the coward. All right? And don't keep pretending that what you're doing is honorable. It's disgusting. Okay. It's because the motive is hidden that we act... Okay, well, anyway. Ashamed. It is because the motive is hidden that we can act and feel good about ourselves. Well, again, I don't know how you feel about yourself, but I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about the world I exist in. I'm not saying I don't have some vanity as an artist, you know, because I do. I'm not saying I can't wallow in some pleasure. I can't be hedonistic at times, but I'm just saying, in overview, I'm not at all feeling good about this circumstance. I'm not at all getting off on this. At all. I don't know if that's sort of might have leaked through some of these videos, but I'm really not having a good time. I really find this whole thing obnoxious. Especially assholes like you. Oh, man. It's all talking. Right, so now this. Amazing, right? Talking. I mean, logically, there's absolutely no possible way you get from bad places to good places without talking. I mean, talking is the way you create solutions. Talking is how you seed each other's minds with the fertilizer that will make an idea grow. Talking, exchanging understanding, conveying senses of urgency, conveying importance, conveying our emotions, our thoughts, our ideas, our concepts. This is so vitally important thing, and here you are mocking it. Life isn't crap, C-R-A-P, consumption, reproduction, addiction, and parasitism. Well, of course it is. It's consume, gratify. So that's as far as he goes. Consume, gratify. So satisfy yourself, be a selfish prick, gratify your basest, crudest, simplest desires. Don't think too much because that'll make you sad. And see, this is or degenerate and die. Or, no, in my opinion, know what you can do? You can generate. You can fight. Okay? And, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And it might kill me. It might drive me out of my life completely. It's just so I can sort of see the decline. Okay, since the 6 years I've been on YouTube, you're talking like somehow it's been feeding me. It's been beautiful therapy. I'm getting so much better and stronger and psychiatrically benefiting from all this stupid goddamn conversation that I'm just loving it to goddamn death. Well, I think anybody could take a look at the evidence and say, God, you're full of shit. Because it's fucking killing me, shithead. It's ruined just about every bit of what life I had. So for you to tell me that somehow I've profited from this experience is goddamn insane. Alright? It is. It's just insane. And the only reason why I'm doing it is because I've always done it. I did it before the internet, and I'll do it, like I said, I'm on a mission, and I've been on a mission, and I'll stay on a mission. Because I don't see anything else more important than the mission. There is nothing else more important than fighting with the human race. And this is the best medium to fight with the human race on, isn't it? Jesus. I hate these people. Backseat drivers who fucking malign And they're like like I said, they're just slanderers. They're just motherfucking cunt slanderers, and then they get all butthurt because you say it right to their face. You slandering, lying motherfucker. Why should I have to clean up that shit you just fucking dumped? Fuck you. Anyway, another. Yeah, I mean, really. God, I'm sorry. These videos have been outrageously long. There's like 75 hours of them in the last 2 days, so sorry about that. But this is really important. I mean, you know, there's no not even, you can't even start to have a fucking rational conversation if people aren't going to stay on Earth. I mean, if they're going to float into space and do some sort of cosmic adventuring in the unknown wordification of the imaginatory flipping it, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, that's just not, there's no point. Then there's no point. We might as well just put all the ideas, write all the ideas that exist or something, like have a competition, and I don't know, write them on a bullets, and then put all the bullets in a gun, and then shoot the gun at each other, and whatever idea kills the guy first, that's the idea we go with or something. You know, let's find some Russian roulette or some sort of all or nothing, some sort of real gladiator war. Battlefield of ideas. Let's have some sort of real fair fight. Just get this the fuck over with, because there's just no way to live with people this fucktarded. I mean, there isn't. You can't live with people this retarded. It really, you just can't. They're going to keep burning your house down, so to speak, metaphorically. They're going to keep destroying everything you find valuable, because they have no values. They're insane.